And welcome to beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, where we are on the road with the candidates. And tonight, for the entire hour, we're joined by Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Welcome to Nashville, Senator. Now, I don't know, were you busy last night? Was something going on last night? Did everyone see the debate last night? Did you have, that was a rip-roaring debate.
Well, listen, I think it was a terrific debate, and I got to say I had a lot of fun, which is important. You got to have fun, but I think it also provided some real clarity. It provided some real distinctions between the candidates, and I think the people understand the stakes in this election are really high, and I got to say, I think Donald Trump had a tough night.
Okay. You are the only one up to this point beside Donald Trump that has won a state. Okay. You are doing well in your home state of Texas, which takes place on Tuesday. There is a very strong possibility that out of Tuesday, the only two candidates that will have won states are you and Donald Trump. There's a poll out that shows Marco Rubio down 20 points in his state of Florida. If after Super Tuesday, any of the other candidates have not won a state, do you think they should get out of the race?
Well, look, I think you're right that as we look at this race right now, we've had 4 primaries. The role of the first 4 primaries historically is to narrow the field, and they have. I mean, we started with 17 candidates. You remember at the beginning, I mean, you needed practically a phone book to tell all of us apart. And it's now narrowed considerably. You know, nobody has ever won the nomination who hasn't won one of the first 3 states. And only 2 of us have done that, Donald Trump and myself. And I do think Super Tuesday is going to be the most important day in this entire election. Super Tuesday, you've got 11 states nationwide that are making their decisions, including the great state of Tennessee. And that vote, I think there's a very significant possibility will come out of that with Donald having won some delegates, with me having won a bunch of delegates, and with everyone else with very, very few delegates. And I think if that happens, you know, 65% of Republicans say Donald is not the right guy to go head-to-head with Hillary. Right? And I think we saw last night why that was. I think we saw last night on issue after issue after issue, Donald's positions are identical to Hillary. The problem is the risk is too high if we nominate Hillary that Donald loses and we end up losing this country. And so for those 65% of Republicans that say Donald's not the right guy, I would encourage everyone here in Tennessee, everyone across Super Tuesday, if you don't want to see Donald Trump as the nominee, we need to unite. And the candidate who is running neck and neck with Donald in the states across Super Tuesday is me. If you want to beat Donald, stand with us.
Let me ask you this. And maybe this is really a question for the audience, because I view both you and Donald Trump as the 2 big insurgent candidates. And let's be honest, if there are 2 people that are hated by the establishment, probably you're at the top and Donald's a close second. And I want to ask maybe the crowd here, and you can applaud if you want to, but are you angry? How angry on a scale of 1 to 10 are you at Washington, D.C. Republicans? And do you think that's what's... Are you... You know, because to what extent do you think, because it's really, if it is coming down to you and him as the only 2 that are winning states after Super Tuesday, that tells me that there's palpable anger. Where is that anger coming from? Because I feel it myself.
Sure. Look, you and I both understand this. People are furious because we keep having politicians, they make promises to us, and then they go to Washington and they break their word. They promptly cut deals with the Democrats. They don't do what they said. I mean, none of this is complicated. You know, what I've tried to do in the Senate has been 2 things. Tell the truth and do what I said I would do.
You know, it is interesting to watch how your fellow senators respond to you. I don't know if you all remember John McCain referred to Senator Cruz as a wacko bird. Lindsey Graham was joking about killing you yesterday. I'm sure you've heard about it. Is it because you kept your promise on health care and you were willing to use the power of the purse that they were not willing to do? Is that divide that big now?
Sean, of course it is. And it's a real simple... You've got career politicians in Washington in both parties that get in bed with the lobbyists and special interest. And that's how you get a $19 trillion debt. It's not one party, it's both parties. And you know, it is amazing. The Washington establishment tells you which candidates they want. You know, it was really quite striking. Bob Dole. Bob Dole said a few weeks ago, he said, well, listen, Donald Trump, I'm just fine with. Why? Because Donald Trump will cut deals. We can work with Donald Trump. We need someone who will cut deals with us. That's what Donald will do. That Cruz guy, he actually believes this stuff. And Sean, as you know, that exact same sentiment was expressed by Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter over in London, he was speaking to the House of Lords. They asked him about the presidential election, and he said, well, listen, between Trump and Cruz, I, Jimmy Carter, would pick Donald Trump. And he said, why? Because Donald Trump is malleable. He has no fixed set of beliefs. He says, Cruz is not malleable.
So, let's imagine you win the presidency, and you're going to hold the line on spending, and Congress will not stand with you for a balanced budget. Congress will not support you on legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. Where does the standoff go? Because we found ourselves at these moments, and Republicans ended up caving. You're the president. What would you do?
Well, Sean, I don't cave. And we keep getting in these fights with Democrats who actually believe what they're saying. Listen, Barack Obama, I actually respect that Barack Obama is committed to his ideas. I think his ideas are profoundly harmful to this country, have done enormous damage, but he is committed. Barack Obama will crawl over broken glass with a knife between his teeth. And the reason we keep getting our lunch eaten is Republican leadership walks in, surrenders before they say good morning. And that doesn't work.
They did that on health care.
Yep.
They did that on executive amnesty. And I think that goes back to my original point. I think that's why we are where we are today. And it seems that it's coming down to a battle of insurgents. And you're making the case that you're the insurgent that can get the job done as a conservative. And I guess you would say that Donald Trump is probably more of a populist.
Well, and I would say it a little differently. Donald Trump is adopting the rhetoric of a populist. Donald Trump, like Hillary Clinton, is a rich New York liberal.
That's about the worst thing you can say to a Republican primary candidate.
And Sean, thankfully, you're a rich New York conservative who's soon going to be a Southerner.
Yeah. You did hear that my own governor in New York doesn't... I'm not a New Yorker. I don't belong in New York because I'm pro-life. I believe in the traditional definition of marriage. And, yes, I'm very pro-Second Amendment. So I'm going to have to leave soon. All right.
But, you know, when it comes to taking on Washington, I mean, one of the amazing things Donald has said a number of times is he said, listen, 7 months ago, I, Donald Trump, was a member of the establishment. No kidding. You know, last night on the debate stage, he said, Ted, I know politicians much better than you do. That's right. But listen, you have been paying off these people for 40 years. And by the way, I mean, look, the Gang of Eight, 5 members of the Amnesty Gang of Eight had collectively received over $50,000 for Donald Trump. And he says, by the way, well, listen, I'm a businessman. I pay off everybody. Well, if you're worried about corruption in Washington, I'm not sure putting him in the White House is the best solution to that.
Let me ask this.
But let me make a quick point here, Sean. Okay, fine. So he's paid off hundreds of thousands of dollars to all these liberal Democrats. He helped put Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi in power. What was he doing that for? It's only for one thing, putting money in his own pocket. Did he ever once say to all of these candidates, gosh, I care about immigration?
Let me ask...
you know, gosh, I care about Supreme Court justices. I care about life. You know, his actions demonstrate that the only thing he's cared about is putting money in his bank account.
Let me play devil's advocate. He's laid out the case that he's changed. For example, he tells a story about how he became pro-life. You don't believe him.
Oh, listen, where he is in his heart, I don't know. I don't know where he is in his heart. I know for 60 years of his life, he described himself as very pro-choice, as supporting partial birth abortion, and as pro-choice in every respect. And then when he decided to run for president as a Republican, suddenly, magically, he was pro-life. Now, let's for a second give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume he had some road to Damascus moment where he realized he was in the wrong. You know, I'm curious, Sean. Donald has also said he has never once asked God for forgiveness for anything. If someone is actually pro-life today, would you perhaps ask God for forgiveness for spending 60 years advocating for partial birth abortion?
Well, here's an interesting question. And by the way, for the record, I have to ask forgiveness every day because I get so angry at Obama. But
look, absolutely,
yeah,
and all of
yeah,
us are sinners.
yeah.
Look, all of us, our faith is between us and God. I'm just
Agreed.
saying those statements, if he has nothing that, when he explains why he's never asked for forgiveness, he says, well, I've never done anything wrong. Well, okay.
Well, let me.
You know, the rest of us are fallen men and only have grace through God's love. You know, that's the way I read it.
But this next question is very important. Then why is he doing so well?
Because people are furious. They're so frustrated with Washington. And I get that voting for Donald Trump for a lot of people is telling Washington, go jump in a lake. I get that. It is. And his rhetoric is loud and angry. And for people that want to scream at Washington, the loudest, angriest voice gives voice to that. But he is telling us he is going to go back on what he's saying. He's saying it over and over again. Donald Trump said, I can be a totally different person after I'm elected. I can be, this is Donald speaking, the most politically correct person on earth. Let me tell you something, Sean. The day after I'm elected president, I am the exact same person that I am today.